Hi, this is Kerry Artak with Wicked Stocks, bringing you your daily NVIDIA report for Monday, August 11th, 2025. Let's take a look at the charts. We did it last week, closed above the 178.67 2.5-year channel top by the full 1% margin, above the 180.45 level. That's actually this week's 1% threshold, so it does represent an area that you could consider buying into on downward retracement. That's entirely up to you, or you could wait for 178.67. But the way this is setting up, 219.64 now considered a 2 to 3 month upside objective, and that is the full swing. In other words, the January previous all-time high against the April low. If you take the difference between those two and you add it to the January high, you get the 100% full swing. And that is a targeting mechanism I've used for a long time, and I do consider it now a 2 to 3 month target above 219.64. I will say, this needs to be mentioned, this is where having daily triple Q analysis, and even NASDAQ 100 index analysis that I also provide on a weekly basis, but daily triple Q, the triple Q and the NASDAQ 100, they also have an identical rising 2.5-year channel top that they've tested but have not yet settled above. So is this going to be a situation where the tail is wagging the dog, wherein the buy signal in NVIDIA sort of drags the index itself into a buy signal over the next week or two? That may be. Or is this a situation where NVIDIA has kind of overshot the runway? And because the triple Q, the NASDAQ 100 have yet to close above this 2.5-year channel top, the index itself susceptible, yes, to falling away into September and October still, as I was saying before with respect to NVIDIA. There's no way to know this. And I'm not trying to, sort of rattle the cage of those of you who went long NVIDIA late last week. I think that is the play. If you're just trading the NVIDIA stock and you're looking at the technicals, this does point toward 219.64 over the next 2 to 3 months. I guess I'm using this as a means to encourage you to go to wickedstocks.com and take advantage at least of that 5-day free trial. Check out our daily triple Q. Check out our weekly NASDAQ 100 index analysis. I think having that at your disposal, especially at this critical impasse, is not a bad idea. So we offer it for 5 days free, and then beyond that, it's $47 a month. And then with that, you would get the daily SPY, our 2 stock picks every week that we put out on a continuum, and our weekly S&P 500, NASDAQ 100, and Apple stock analysis. So check out wickedstocks.com. Anyway, all systems go to the upside as far as NVIDIA is concerned. We do have the swing count at 186.39. I've reduced that to a minor point in deference to this well-defined rising channel top at 188.82. And I consider this a weekly objective now, above 178.67. The daily chart has 178.49. If you want to use that, that's fine. 178.67 is our base of support for the week and our base of support into the fourth quarter, as I say, 219.64 in reach over the next few months. Working our way up on the chart, I have that 188.82 as a 3 to 5 day target now, and it can contain daily buying pressures. We can fall away from here, but keep in mind we remain now, or exist now, in a long-term buy signal following the settlement last week above 178.67, and this rising channel top at 199.53 is in reach over the next 3 to 5 weeks or sooner. And that 3 to 5 weeks becomes more like 2 to 3 weeks if over the next few days, for instance, we close above 188.82. So if we do close any day this week above 188.82, this is more of a 2 to 3 week, maybe even a 1 to 2 week objective. 199.53 is a longer term, steeply rising channel top that can contain weekly buying pressures when tested. And I will note that by early September, into the first half of September, it converges anyway with 219.64. So this may be an unattainable line study unless we get up and over 188.82 sooner than later, because over time this thing just continues to pull away. 219.64 remains our 2 to 3 month target. So 188.82 can contain daily highs. 183.30, which is the high that was put out about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, that we took out slightly last Thursday, is still a soft intraday upward pivot point. And if we were to push through 183.30, we could actually reach 188.82 today.
If you're finding value in this analysis, it's only a glimpse of what we offer. Your real trading edge starts at wickedstocks.com. Each week, premium members receive 2 high-probability stock picks. Each one comes with a complete trade plan, including exact entry, profit target, stop loss, and regular updates so you can manage the trade with confidence. You'll also get daily video analysis in the top traded markets, the SPY, the Triple Q, and NVIDIA, highlighting the key price levels, trends, and trade setups we're focused on. Whether you're day trading or swing trading, these insights help you zero in on the highest quality opportunities with clarity. Try it all free for 5 days. Cancel at any time.
So pushing through or opening above 183.30, you should allow 188.82 intraday, where we can place a daily high. I don't know about a weekly high, but if it can contain a daily high, it just might contain a weekly high, right? That's the way this stuff works. If it can contain a weekly high, it just might contain a monthly high. You don't really know exactly. You do an educated guess based on experience and just the experience of trading and analyzing the markets. So 188.82, under other circumstances, I might call that a 3-star weekly resistance area. But because, putting it in proper context, we just came out of a long-term buy signal last week with that settlement above 178.67, you need to keep it light at 188.82 and not overcommit. Closing above it is just a mere indication of continued accelerated upside activity. 199.53 likely within a couple of weeks of closing above 188.82. So if we do close above 188.82, and you did sell it as a 3 to 5 day swing trade back to 178.67, my opinion is you need to reverse and go long and hold out for 199.53. Let's take a look at the downside here. We do have 178.67. Let me go back to that chart just to remind you. That is our long-term 2.5-year channel top on the weekly chart, our base of support now into the fourth quarter. If we happen to break it, we do have 177.38, so that could be just a quick intraday target. We could bounce here and close above 178.67. But I will say that if we do close today below 178.67, and we don't have it pointed out here, but closing below 178.67 is also below Thursday's low. And that is the low of the all-time high so far. So, if you want to use 178.49, I don't have a problem with that. But 178.67 is the base on the weekly chart. And I think even a daily settlement below 178.67 does carry with it 172.74. 172.74 is part of a range down to 171.59. Closing below 178.67 was also going to be below the low of the high from Thursday. You can see how we have a 3 to 5 day sell signal into this 171.59 to 172.74 region, where we could bottom out through next week and round back up again. In terms of shifting momentum into the bearish column, that would come with a settlement later this week below 171.59, because we would also then have a settlement back below this channel top at 178.67. Closing the week below 178.67 is in itself the rejection of a long-term buy signal, which is in essence a valid sign of weakness over the longer term. In other words, we would be back to anticipating the possibility of 149.53 within 2 to 3 months, and that becomes clarified if we were over the following 3 to 5 days to also close below 171.59. So if you don't go short, let's back up a little bit. If you're long now with the settlement last week above 178.67, my suggestion is if you close below it, even on a daily basis, you exit that long position, because as I've said already, I do think that the 171.59 to 172.74 area becomes a 3 to 5 day target. And if we then close below 171.59, it really is a go short strategy because you have a kind of a double sell signal, both below the structures that you see on this chart and also the rejection of a long-term buy signal below 178.67. I think the two add up to the upper 140s. And yes, on the way down, 162.79 can contain weekly selling pressures. But this also begs for, I think, having the triple Q at your side, the daily triple Q report, the weekly NASDAQ 100 analysis that is available to you by going to wickedstocks.com. I'm going to leave it at that. Please click like, share, subscribe. I'll be back tomorrow, of course, with Tuesday's NVIDIA report. And you have a great day.